guys. Our time machine broke down.
Oh, hey guys, how are y'all? Well, if you remember from last time, our time machine broke down out here, and we're going to need your help to charge up that brain power battery so that we can make it back to the future. So let's grab our tablet and see where we are, because I don't even know. It looks really cold. I noticed the map looked weird when we came in, but we need to do some investigation. So let's check out our tablet and see if we can find out any information about the area. Guys, this can't be. When our time machine broke down, we must have gone 15,000 years in the past. I noticed the map looked weird whenever I uploaded it, and when we came in, I saw there was an ice bridge. Here, I'll send the map to the screen. Alright guys, here's our main screen. Let's see what we need to do. Well guys, we know that, right? We need to charge the brain charger. First thing we're going to need to do is find out where and when are we. The next thing is going to be the name of the people. After that, why did they come here and how? And number 4, the last percent. What was life like for them? Let's get some inspiration. Let's wave it around. No great discovery was ever made without a bold guess. Any idea who said that? Sir Isaac Newton. And that's him right here. Could you imagine having hair like that today? That would be silly. So we got the first step. Where and when are we? So I know this place. This looks like Pangea. Pangea is when all the Earth's continents were all together before tectonic plates separated them. And based on how freezing cold it is out here, I'm going to say we are right here. This right here had an ice bridge 15,000 years ago where I am, and it was called Beringia. So guys, it's going to be super important that you guys have your thinking caps on and help me to charge our big brain battery and get us back to the future, okay? We found out where and when we are. So where are we? That's right. We are on Beringia, on the supercontinent Pangea, 13 to 15,000 years before 2020. All right, guys. Great job. Now we know where we are, and we know when we are. That's really important. Did you guys hear that noise? Yes! That means we got some charge in our big brain battery. Pretty soon, if we keep finding things out, we're going to have enough charge to move forward. Now, let's see if we can find out anything else. I'll use my tablet and send more information up to the screen so you guys can follow along. Let's get that big brain battery charged all the way. Good job, guys. Now that we have that first 25% out of the way, we're getting closer. Let's go on to step number 2. What is the name of the native peoples and what kind of animals were there?
Human artifacts alongside the bones of extinct bison, proving that man had inhabited North America during the Ice Age. 6 years later, in 1933, archaeologists working near the tiny town of Clovis, New Mexico, unearthed artifacts with fossil bones of a different kind. Here, a stone spear point was found wedged between the ribs of a mammoth, an Ice Age elephant that had been extinct for 11,000 years. The Paleo-Indian who put it there proved to predate the Folsom people by at least 500 years. In the decades that followed, Clovis points began to turn up at sites virtually everywhere in North America. The geographical scope of the Clovis culture was impressive. But even more so was the speed with which the primitive technology had spread. Armed with radiocarbon dating methods, archaeologists confirmed that the Clovis culture had literally swept the Americas in less than 800 years. Another source of wonder for modern archaeologists was that Clovis people actually hunted mammoth. At one mammoth kill site near Naco, Arizona, 8 spear points were found in the skeleton of a single animal.
Wow, that was some really great information. So let's put it all together and see what we've learned. The native people were called Clovis people, or pre-Clovis people, because some people speculate that there were people here before they got here. Clovis people are the native people that migrated over the ice bridge Beringia and were given the name Clovis people because the first evidence of their existence was discovered in Clovis, New Mexico in the 1920s. Did you guys know I've lived in New Mexico? Specifically, I've even lived in Clovis, New Mexico. That would have been cool to find some of their tools. Really crazy animals back then, huh? Some were even bigger than the grizzly bear or polar bear today. Could you imagine that? Well, let's put it all together and see exactly what we found out. The ancient animals. There was woolly mammoths, the Beringian lion, the short-faced bear, the grizzly bear, the muskox, the steppe bison, American skimtar cat, caribou, those exist today, Yukon horse, the Sida antelope, gray wolf, and the giant beaver. Did you imagine that? Giant beaver must have humongous teeth. Hey, great job, guys. We got 50% charged now. Before you know it, I'll be able to get out of here and finally warm up. I'm tired of my nose getting icicles. So let's move on to step number 3. The journey over Beringia and why they came here.
Armed with 20th century theories about the Ice Age world, archaeologists now traced the path of migration that had delivered these earliest Americans to the New World. During the coldest Ice Age periods, 5% of the Earth's water was diverted from the sea and frozen on land in vast glaciers. Starting around 25,000 years ago, lowered sea levels exposed the shallow continental shelf beneath the Bering and Chukchi seas. This expanse of new terrain formed a land bridge known as Beringia, over which animals and human beings could migrate from the Old World to the New. Old World archaeological evidence places early Homo sapiens in Siberia and northern China 39,000 years ago. Sometime later, an intrepid group of Siberian people followed familiar game herds eastward into Alaska.
So that the first Americans working their way over from Asia would not really have discerned that they were in a new world. Because in fact, Beringia, the continent, and Alaska were very much like Siberia.
Crossing from Siberia may have posed no significant challenge to these hardy nomads, but the passage south into the lower 48 states was effectively blocked by glaciers. Coming together around 20,000 years ago, these ice sheets covered parts of southern Alaska and virtually all of modern-day Canada. However, near the end of the Ice Age, these glaciers may have receded enough to create an ice-free corridor through which people could have passed.
If in fact the ice-free corridor was closed up until about 12,000, and if in fact Clovis groups are the first Americans and they do appear initially on the southern high plains at about 11,500, well then that fits all very, very nicely together.
So, we found out that there were 2 paths more than likely taken. They could have taken the inland route or the coastal route. The Clovis people are thought to have taken one of two routes, an ice-free corridor farther inland, or a path alongside the ocean. Which path would you choose and why? Could you imagine walking all the way from Russia to Alaska for a McDouble? Well, it's not exactly a McDouble, but that's what the Clovis people did. They went on a great hunt. The Clovis people were amazing hunters and would hunt all types of large prey. Large prey are called megafauna, as a team, and sometimes following them for miles and miles. That's just so incredible. I couldn't imagine fighting a woolly mammoth, or a saber-toothed tiger, or even a giant beaver. Great job, guys. Now we're up to 75%. Hey, only one more thing we need to learn and figure out from here, and I, Professor Dad, am gonna finally get to warm up. Last question, guys, and then I'm gonna get to come back to my time, back where you guys are too. What was life like for them? Well, let's investigate that.
20,000 years ago, it is believed the first men crossed into the Americas. They walked across a stretch of land called the Bering Land Bridge. This land was not some small ice bridge, but rather a very large stretch of land inhabited by many different animals. These men not only lived in this land, but also crossed into the Americas. It was not a single event, but rather multiple waves of different ethnic groups immigrating over thousands of years.
Their first task is to find stones to make the tools and weapons on which their survival depends. This great canopy of icy wilderness contains unimagined sights and creatures. As they enter the forest for their first hunt, shocks await. They don't yet know it, but this is a land of massive prehistoric mammals, unlike any in Ice Age Europe. Among them, one of the most terrifying predators of all time, the short-faced bear, capable of chasing its prey at 25 miles an hour. And rearing up to heights of 13 feet.
Though the first men came across around 20,000 years ago, widespread evidence did not appear until around 12,000 years ago. The Swan Lake archaeological site in east central Alaska contains evidence of inhabitants as early as 14,500 years ago. Evidence of fire pits have been found as well as many artifacts. Over the thousands of years the site was inhabited, remains such as elk, bison, mammoth, and moose can be found. Stone tools are also abundant, including complex bifacial blades and the tools that they used to make them. These people were expert survivors and craftsmen. They created deadly hunting tools out of materials in their environment to take down very large game. The multiple waves of people who moved through this site and many other sites in Alaska show us that it was not one group of people, but many ethnically diverse people who made the journey to America. It was different tribes and clans moving across a landmass that has never been inhabited by humans or apes of any kind. This was the first time an animal of our taxonomic family entered this untouched Garden of Eden. These people would rapidly spread out through the United States and develop their own unique cultures and massive empires. Most Native American cultures have long forgotten the days when they crossed over into the continent. The Navajo believed that their ancestors came out of the ground. Many other cultures had origin stories involving coming out of caves or springs. The America these early settlers inhabited is much different than the modern America. Glaciers covered many northern regions of the continent, and the flora and fauna were much different. Terrifying beasts roamed the land, such as the giant short-faced bear. It was over 10 feet tall standing up and weighed over 1,100 pounds. Countless other predators roamed the land, such as multiple species of saber-toothed cat, the American cheetah, and large packs of dire wolves. Strange megafauna herbivores also prowled the continent. Woolly mammoths, mastodons, and giant sloths roamed the land. These beasts likely inspired many stories passed down to native cultures. In North America 12,000 years ago, the end Pleistocene mass extinction began to take
As amazing as that sounds, at least for me, I don't know about you, I sure am glad that I don't live back then. Let's put it all together and see exactly what we found out. It was cold. The Earth was just coming out of the Ice Age, and it was very cold. Even now, the average temperature in that area is 21 degrees Fahrenheit, with winters going sometimes down to -65. Did you know that's cold enough for you to boil water in a pot, and it to be boiling, and then you throw it in the air, and before it comes down, it'll be snow? What else? Well, they were hungry. Because of how harsh the environment was, Clovis people were constantly on the hunt as food was hard to come by. I sure am glad none of us have to worry about that. Alright, so what else? They were hard-working. Survival is hard work, and the Clovis people made some of the earliest tools known to North America. I sure am glad I don't have to cook by rubbing two sticks together. Hey, that would be an interesting experiment. Talk to your teacher and see if we can do something like that. And lastly, they were handy. They learned how to make stone tools and start fire, as well as leather making and smoking food. The Clovis people were very resourceful. Do you guys know what resourceful means? Could you imagine not having the right tool or a knife to cut your food, and instead of going to the store, you had to go and find a really smooth rock and chip at it for maybe hours and hours just so you could do what you needed? Hey guys, great news. It went up to 100%. You guys are great. Now, let's go store this big brain battery back in the time machine and see if we can get back all the way back to 2020. Well, it may not be much to look at, but let me tell you, it's the first and only time machine brought to you by Professor Dad. Now, let's get that big brain battery back installed in there that you guys worked so hard to charge up. Alright, we'll just put it right there. Plug that cord into this cord. Let's make sure the time flux capacitor is connected. Alright guys, looks like we're all set. Go! Finally, we're coming back. 15,000 years in the past. Wow. I only meant to go back a little bit. I think I still have a piece of woolly mammoth stuck in my teeth. Hey guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ask any questions you want below, and I'll answer them. Take it easy.